He was once a child gasping for breath, a boy doctors feared might never leave the hospital alive. Yet from that fragile body rose a fighter who would one day press giants to the ropes and command silence in hostile arenas. His story is not only about belts, but about survival turned into mastery. From the shadow of illness to the throne of heavyweight boxing, this is the journey of Oleksandr Usyk, the man who turned weakness into defiance. Before we get started, remember to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the most exciting stories about boxing's legendary fighters. Oleksandr Usyk's childhood began with a fight he did not choose. In Simferopol, he was struck by pneumonia so severe that doctors warned his parents to prepare for the worst. Fever, rattling breaths, and a chest that burned with every inhale kept him in a hospital ward for weeks. Needles, medicine schedules, and restless nights turned time into a slow march. He left the ward thin and unsteady, forced to relearn strength one careful step at a time. Recovery became his first training camp. He learned to count each deep breath as a small victory, to accept discomfort, and to meet fear with persistence. When his lungs finally opened, he ran toward movement. He joined the local football academy, chasing the ball with a hunger for air and space. Coaches saw energy rather than size. As a teenager, he walked into a boxing gym and felt a different calling. The heavy bag answered his questions about doubt. Illness had tried to define him. Discipline would rewrite the story for good. Inside the gym, Oleksandr Usyk shaped himself with methods that seemed less like drills and more like ordeals. He would submerge underwater and hold his breath until his body trembled. Once, he pushed so far that consciousness slipped away, and he blacked out beneath the surface, pulled up only in time. What others saw as reckless was, for him, a rehearsal for survival. If he could remain calm as the lungs screamed, then no storm in the ring could unnerve him. On dry ground, his training looked no less unusual. He walked on his hands across long distances, forcing every muscle to serve balance and coordination. He performed rhythm exercises, clapping or shifting weight to a beat, teaching his body to attack with music-like timing. It was not strength alone he sought, but mastery of rhythm and patience. To outsiders, these sessions seemed eccentric, almost absurd. To Usyk, they were the foundation of a strategy that would outlast the bulk of larger men. Each exercise taught him to conserve energy, disguise movement, and strike at the moment when opponents expected stillness. These were the rituals through which the frail boy became a fighter prepared to unsettle giants. Usyk did not build his reputation by defending at home. He forged it in hostile arenas where every cheer belonged to someone else. In Poland, he faced Krzysztof Glowacki, a national hero, and dismantled him with relentless precision to claim his first world title. In Latvia, against Maris Briedis, the bout turned brutal and close, but Usyk's composure edged him through another storm. Then came Moscow, where Murat Gassiev carried the hopes of a nation. Usyk entered to a chorus of hostility and left with every major belt. What made these victories unforgettable was not just the trophies collected, but the path he chose. He traveled into enemy territory, silenced crowds, and unified an entire division through pure skill and nerve. By 2018, he stood as the undisputed champion at Cruiserweight, one of the rarest crowns in modern boxing. His journey through that division revealed a truth. Usyk did not merely win fights, he invaded fortresses and left them in silence. When Oleksandr Usyk stepped into the heavyweight division, many believed his reign at Cruiserweight would mean little against men who outweighed him by stones. Anthony Joshua, with his sculpted frame and thunderous power, was expected to crush the newcomer in London. Yet on that September night, Usyk danced around the giant, slipping jabs, threading sharp left hands, and turning the arena's anticipation into disbelief. The final bell rang with Joshua bruised and bewildered, while Usyk lifted his arms as the new champion. The rematch in Jeddah carried even heavier stakes. Joshua arrived bulkier, burning for redemption, and the desert heat made every breath a burden, but Usyk's will stretched further than muscle. He absorbed Joshua's best moments, steadied himself, and then replied, with combinations that carved through the larger man's defenses. When the scorecards were read, Usyk had retained his crown. He had entered as a visitor to the land of giants. but left as proof that brains, footwork, and steel nerves could overturn the natural order of heavyweight boxing. In May of 2024, Oleksandr Usyk faced Tyson Fury in Riyadh, a man taller, heavier, and louder than anyone he had ever fought. The build-up painted Usyk as the smaller visitor to a circus ruled by the self-proclaimed Gypsy King. For the opening rounds, it looked like a duel of patience. Fury leaning his bulk, pawing with his jab, trying to smother the Ukrainian's rhythm. But Usyk refused to be drawn into chaos. Then came the 9th round. With sudden urgency, Usyk unleashed a storm of left hands and hooks that drove Fury into the ropes. The towering champion staggered, eyes glassy, as the referee began a count. Fury survived, but the damage was done. When the split decision was announced in Usyk's favor, the world had witnessed a seismic shift. The Cruiserweight, who had once been doubted, now ruled heavyweight boxing. 7 months later, they met again under the same desert lights. This time, Usyk entered without hesitation. He pressed from the start, cutting angles, darting inside, and landing the straight left with unnerving accuracy. Fury's tricks, leaning, clinching, taunting, found no traction. Round by round, Usyk wrote clarity into the contest, stripping away every excuse. At the end, all 3 judges handed him a wide, unanimous decision. 2 fights, 2 verdicts, 1 truth. Usyk had conquered the giant twice. Not with size, not with bravado, but with a mind sharper than steel and a will that refused to bow. He emerged undisputed, proving that intelligence and resilience could tame even the loudest king. Moments after defeating Tyson Fury, Oleksandr Usyk stepped into a room far quieter than the roaring arena. His face bore the marks of battle, yet in his hands he held something gentle, a small stuffed toy for his daughter. As he spoke of his late father, the man who had pushed him toward sport when sickness nearly stole his childhood, his voice cracked and tears flowed. The sight of the relentless warrior breaking down revealed the man behind the armor, vulnerable, devoted, and human. It was a reminder that his triumphs were never only about belts or glory, but about honoring family and carrying love through every storm. By the close of 2024, Oleksandr Usyk stood as one of the rare undefeated champions of modern times. More than 20 victories lined his ledger, with around 15 men unable to hear the final bell. He had already cleared out the Cruiserweight division, unifying every title, and then repeated the feat at heavyweight after conquering Tyson Fury twice. In an age where champions often cling to fragments, Usyk gathered the whole crown. His record is more than a string of numbers. It is a declaration of endurance, patience, and discipline. Observers call him a defining figure of modern boxing, not because of hype, but because no opponent has yet found a way to solve the puzzle he carries into every fight. Oleksandr Usyk never tried to match heavyweights in size. He dismantled them with deception. His entire approach was built on the art of making opponents commit to the wrong move. He twitched his shoulders, shifted his gaze, and threw feints that froze even seasoned champions. From his southpaw stance, the jab became a blade, not a probe. It opened a path for the straight left, a shot he delivered with speed that belied his frame. But it was not only the punches. His feet carried him on invisible rails, stepping to the side while opponents swung into air. Each diagonal step turned defense into ambush, leaving giants reaching for a target that vanished and reappeared behind their guard. Perhaps his greatest weapon was stamina. Where massive men wilted under their own weight in late rounds, Usyk surged forward, hands still crisp, feet still sharp. The later the fight stretched, the more his control grew. This combination of rhythm, disguise, and endurance made him a puzzle no rival has solved. Against bigger frames and louder names, Usyk turned what looked like a disadvantage into his greatest strength. He proved that intelligence and movement could topple mountains of muscle. In August of 2023, Oleksandr Usyk defended his titles in Wrocław against Daniel Dubois, a powerful young challenger hungry to make his name. The fight was balanced until the 5th round, when Dubois drove a thudding shot into Usyk's midsection, and the champion dropped to the canvas. The referee ruled it a low blow, sparking instant uproar. Dubois' corner shouted that the punch was legal, while Usyk's team insisted it had landed below the belt. For a moment, the controversy overshadowed the fight itself, But Usyk rose, steadied his breathing, and regained control. He circled, jabbed, and began wearing down the younger fighter with calculated pressure. As the rounds passed, Dubois' power faded, while Usyk's precision sharpened. In the 9th round, Usyk's counters broke through, and Dubois wilted under the assault, forcing the referee to intervene. The stoppage did not silence debate, but it underlined a defining truth. Usyk thrived when tested by chaos. He left Roswell not only with his belts intact, but with proof that no storm, inside or outside the ring, could shake his resolve. For all his mastery, Oleksandr Usyk was not untouchable. There were moments when a single heavy punch snapped his head back, when an uppercut or short right hand reminded the crowd that even the most disciplined can feel danger. His lighter frame in the heavyweight division invited rivals to lean on him, grind him down with body shots, and test the limits of endurance. In those flashes, fans glimpsed the possibility of collapse. Yet Usyk's response became part of his legend. He never panicked. He stepped away, reset his stance, and pulled opponents back into his rhythm. Vulnerability revealed humanity, but recovery revealed greatness. The drama of seeing him absorb punishment and then reassert control added tension to every fight. Usyk's strength lay not in avoiding damage altogether, but in showing that even when shaken, he could bend and never break. Long before the first bell, Oleksandr Usyk carried an armor unseen. He crossed himself, whispered prayers, and entered the ring believing victory rested not only on skill, but on faith. His devotion sometimes drew the attention of officials, yet for him it was inseparable from the fight. Just as visible was his pride in the traditions of the Ukrainian Cossacks. He wore the distinct haircut, sang folk songs, and embraced the heritage of warriors who lived by courage and freedom. These gestures were more than symbols. They declared who he was fighting for. Beyond faith and culture, his family anchored his resolve. He spoke of his late father with reverence, carried tokens for his children, and drew strength from their presence. For Usyk, fists alone did not win battles. Identity, faith, and kinship formed the invisible foundation of his victories. Oleksandr Usyk's battles have never been contained by ropes and judges. When his homeland suffered devastation, he chose not to remain silent. In Irpin, where families returned to shattered houses, Usyk directed funds to restore homes, and even helped revive a small gym so that young fighters could train again where hope had once been lost. These were not gestures for headlines, but acts that rebuilt daily life brick by brick. He also walked through the wards of Akhmat Children's Hospital in Kyiv, greeting young patients who carried scars far beyond sport. For those children, he was not the undisputed champion, but a living reminder that resilience could overcome despair. His calm voice and gentle presence delivered strength no metal could measure. Through these actions, Usyk revealed another truth. The same discipline that carried him through punishing rounds fuels his service to others. His victories are counted not only in belts, but in lives touched, communities restored, and faith renewed. Despite the gravitas of his career, Oleksandr Usyk often disarms audiences with humor. In one press exchange, his broken phrase, "I am very feel," became a viral echo, repeated by fans worldwide as a symbol of his quirky charm. During open workouts, he twirls, shuffles, and dances, transforming tense moments into displays of lighthearted mischief. Reporters hoping for barbed insults instead find a grin and a joke, proof that he prefers laughter to hostility. This balance of ferocity inside the ropes and levity outside makes him memorable. A champion who fights with steel yet smiles with ease. Oleksandr Usyk's journey began with a child weakened by illness and grew into the saga of a man who outthought, outworked, and outlasted giants. His path carved through foreign arenas, conquered divisions, and twice unseated the loudest heavyweight of his era. Yet beyond the belts, his story resonates because it speaks of resilience, faith, and service to others. He has become a defining figure of modern boxing, proof that determination can rise from fragility. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out more similar videos on the channel. Your support means a lot to us. Thank you.